1. Hi, welcome to 26 Minutes With. This is the show that talks about leadership and those that are making a positive impact and change for the better, and those also, too, with the courage to speak up. I'm your host, David Cohen, and we have a wonderful guest, colleague, and friend with us today. It's Dr. Lance Secretan, who spent his life coaching individuals and advising corporations about how to reclaim lost inspiration and become an inspiration for others. In this new work, he addresses the whole human, and he pours everything he's learned into the new book he's released just this past week or two, called Reawakening the Human Spirit. The result is it's a life hack for the spirit. It's a journey to reclaim our lost inspiration in all aspects of our lives. Lance provides radical insights and reveals entirely different ways to understand and experience stress, diversity, and inclusion, nonviolent language at work and in business, the difference between inspiration and motivation, inspirational leadership, the social self and the essential self, spirituality, learning the psychology of needs and desires, also life's purpose and meaning, and finally, the perfect clarity that this book opens up the door to reawakening your human spirit. So if you do wish to live a life of greater inspiration and impact, like this show is about, then you want to get the latest book called Reawakening the Human Spirit. Lance, welcome to 26 Minutes With.
Great to be with you, David. Thank you for inviting me.
You as well, my friend. What was the inspiration in writing this book? Because that was the first question. That was one of the questions I had as I was reviewing it. So what was the inspiration for you?
Well, there's two reasons. One is the world is in a funk.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of burdens, psychological burdens for people right now. Ukraine, opioid crisis, inflation, job loss, polarization, corrupt institutions, COVID. There's no shortage, right, of things to worry about and to stress us. Well, the world is not going to present itself to us and say, hi, I'm here to inspire you. So what are we going to do about it? I can't change Putin. I probably can't change Biden. So, I don't have that power, but I do have the power within. I can say to myself, I'm going to be more inspired despite what's around me. But I have to learn how to do that. The book describes how to do that. That's one thing. The other reason I wrote the book is because I think we have completely botched our whole history of work and what it means to be in a corporate setting, to go to work, and so on. I think it's a miserable experience. Whenever I ask audiences this question, what percentage of the population do you think would give up their day jobs if they had a free choice? Every single time, I've done it hundreds of times, every time people say 80%. 80%. 80% of people would quit work if they had a free choice. That's after we've been spending $170 billion a year on leadership development. There are 240,000 books on Amazon about leadership. We've got consultants and MBA programs all over the place teaching leadership, and we've screwed it up everywhere. Yeah. Whether it's politics, academia, the Roman Catholic Church, the police, it doesn't matter where you look, it's a mess. Yeah. So how do we change this? How do we, and the issue for me has been, and why I wrote the book, is we can't continue to deal with business as a separate transaction. We're dealing with people, human beings. And when people say, I don't want to go to work because I don't want to get into my car and spend a lot of money on gas and get all my clothes pressed and laundered so that I can show up at work and all, I don't want to do that. I want to take my dog for a walk at 10 o'clock in the morning and work until midnight. Leave me alone. Well, that's because that person is a human being and they've discovered freedom. And so here we are in a whole place where we need to be inspired and we need to reinvent work. So this book is really about a human being and how human beings can become inspired again, no matter where you are, whether you're at church, whether you're at work, whether you're in a hospital, whether you're dying, doesn't matter. Wherever you are, how do you become more inspired?
And I guess that's been weighing on your heart the past 3 years, and I know you started the Inspiration in the Cloud group calls we do every Thursday. So that sort of heaviness and sort of I'm sometimes you look and it's like I'm in utter despair. It's like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
what else can happen? What are you
Right.
finding is in the human heart these days with your peers, with what you're seeing and sensing when you meet and talk to your peers, clients, and students? What are they expressing to you?
Same thing I've just said.
Hmm.
You know what? I think that the people who are getting it last, in other words, they're the last in the lineup to hear the message, are leaders. There's no doubt that followers have already got the message. That's why there's a great resignation.
Yes.
That's why there's 11 million jobs vacant right now. So people don't want to go to work. Why? And then management keeps asking them to come back to work, even though they're telling them they don't want to. Why would you do that? These are human beings. They're telling you what they want. Why don't you give them what they want?
Yeah. To me, the book was also a bit of a swan song. And you've been, you share the pretty well the complete body of your work over all these years, and in the space of leadership, personal growth, spirit at work, and also finding the sane in the insane world. Am I sensing that correctly? Was it a bit of a swan song, or is there another book in you later on, do you feel?
Oh, I'm sure there is. I certainly didn't write it with the intention that I'm dying, this is going to be my last book. No, that's definitely not the case.
Okay, good.
I'm going to give you alive and kicking for a long time yet. So, no, I will, I'm sure, write more. But I'm complete now. This is the message for our time.
Yeah.
The world is hurting, and we don't need any more people complaining. We need to figure out. Yeah, I know it does suck at times in places. Yeah. Okay, now let's get on with doing what we have to do, because I don't want to live the rest of my life complaining.
Yeah. And by swan song, I didn't mean a referral to dying or anything, but I was writing articles for a magazine, home business magazine. And my last one was December 2021. And it was also on leadership, using the TV show Blue Bloods as an example. And then I haven't written another one since. And the woman I was connected with at the magazine, the editor, she emailed me last May and said, "Where have you been? Are you okay?" And I went, "I don't have anything left to say right now."
Yeah.
Okay, it was almost like the world and what's going on has left me like silent. Like I just need to process.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I meant. Like, like what would be next,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm much more preoccupied with this than the next.
Yeah.
You know that my favorite quote, Lao Tzu, says, "If you're living in the past, you're depressed. If you're
Yeah.
living in the future, you're anxious, and if you're living in the present, you're at peace." So I'm in the present. I'm
Yeah.
at peace.
Good.
I'm working with what I've got.
That's it. So, that's all we have as well. So reawakening starts with examining work. You've talked to it already a little bit in corporate culture. You even go so far as to suggest that companies treat their people as resources. As leaders and companies catching on and sorry, the question is, are leaders in companies, and you already spoke to this a little bit, but are leaders in companies catching on and making more heart-centered shifts in how they're leading companies? Are you seeing any shifts, any changes from leadership in organizations and companies?
I think there's a moment of embarrassment right now, David, because I think take Amazon. Amazon is a classic example. It's a huge company, right? I mean, I don't know how many employees, 1 million employees or something monstrous. And they have said, you've got to come back to work. So 30,000 employees at Amazon signed a petition saying, no, not going to do that. Now, this is a moment of embarrassment. What's the management supposed to do? They have to climb down, right? This is an ego issue. They have to set the ego aside and say, okay, fine. We were wrong. We've listened to you. We'll do what you want. That takes courage. That takes setting aside the ego. I think that's very difficult for leaders right now. So as long as the ego gets in the way, we're not going to see that change.
Yeah. So what needs to happen? You even call it leaders who lay off thousands of people, profits are down, and yet they get a massive payout in the sea of, as you call it, corporate incompetence. So what needs to happen in order to, you know, get out of the ego? But is there anything else that leaders need to do to be more accountable and more people-centered, more heart-centered?
Well, they need to listen, David. And what's happening right now is management, they may hear, but they're not listening. So it's just noise to them. It doesn't have a meaning. The meaning is, I want you to reinvent my experience of work. And if you don't do it, I'm going to work for somebody else. So what does it take? I think it takes that, unfortunately. It's a pity that it has to come to this, but I think companies are going to find they can't recruit enough people. And therefore, they have to meet those people where they are. And that'll be a change. We're in for a giant change, by the way. This is just the friction that happens during that transition, right? It's very messy. But we'll come out the other side in a totally different place. I was reading today a story about, I think it's Bell Lab's old building, which is now a sort of a metropolis of multiple stores and schools and doctors' offices and a hospital and all kinds of things in there, even a basketball court. So this is a repurposed corporate building. Perfect. That's what we need. We don't need more buildings. We've got 150 million of them in the United States. So, we actually need to repurpose ones like that. So that'll happen. Now what do you do? I mean, those employees aren't going to work anymore. So now what? Now what we need to do is build infrastructure that matches that, so that we don't drop our Zoom calls all the time and so on.
Yeah. So, you alluded to this too, and we've been watching this great resignation, or the term quiet quitting.
Yeah.
So the human resources aren't so happy. What are people seeking, and what do employees want now when it comes to work? You mentioned a little bit about, basketball courts and, sort of a one-stop shop place in office towers. But what are we seeking when it comes to work?
Well, that's nice, but it's not what employees are seeking.
No.
It's almost like table stakes. If you can't provide that, you're not even going to attract people. So it's sort of minimum requirements. But what they're really looking for is respect. We've talked for a long time about family. Business is family. But actually, that's bullshit. And we know that. I mean, Google, Alphabet, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, it's been a bloodbath, and that's not family. That's not how you deal with things. Now, Apple, for instance, has taken a slightly different tack, where they're saying, it isn't, things are not looking good. We do expect some problems, so we're not going to hire any more people, but we're not going to fire you either. So we're going to have to tough this out together, and that may mean pay freezes, budget freezes. It may mean lots of things, but if we hang together, we're going to come out of this and out the other side. Now, that's a responsible company.
Yeah, there's a company also out of the U.S. I wish there were more here in Canada, but it's Mitchell Richards clothing store. And in the 2008 recession, their people, their sales staff on the floor are paid a salary, and they had to sort of put the salary on hold. Everybody had to be in it together, and they toughed it out because they were committed to not letting anybody go. It even meant maybe, not as many hours in the week for that time, but they did it and they toughed it out. And they're like high-end clothing. They're like Harry Rosen meets Holt Renfrew.
Yes.
Right?
And I write a story in the book very similar to that, about Paul Levy, who was the chairman of Deaconess Hospital in Boston. And when the recession came in 2008, and he had a town hall meeting with all the staff, there were 8,000 employees there. And he said, things are really tough, and I don't want to lay anybody off. So I would need some help. What would you like me to do? I want to keep everybody here. I'm looking for your suggestions. Well, he had 100 emails an hour come in after that. And people were saying, I'll give up my vacation. I'll go part-time. I'll get another job to supplement this and go part-time here. I'll take a sabbatical. I'll take a pay cut. I'll forego my vacation. I mean, just hundreds of ideas. And nobody got laid off. And he's a hero.
Yeah. And that's inspiration that you're talking about.
Sir. Yes, sir. That's why he's in the book.
Yeah. Now, I've heard someone say that we bring our family dynamic, our traumas, our patterns, and our behaviors to work. So don't we need to heal that first before any great change can really happen in the world? Sure.
Well, what we need to deal with is what I said earlier, which is that leaders need to understand they're dealing with people. And that may sound like an obvious statement, but hear this. We never say, let's invite George, Harry, Susan, and Martha to a meeting. We say, let's invite the marketing department, like it's a thing. But it's not a thing, this is people. But who do you mean? Which people? And we talk about dealing with the marketing department, but we're not dealing with the things you just mentioned. And these are people running this marketing department. And yes, they're in the middle of divorces and they're financially stressed and they can't pay their food bills and they've got kids that have gone off the rails and so on. You better deal with those things. That's who these people are. That's what leadership is about. And I'll tell you a little story about this. I had a client that showed up on my Inspiration in the Cloud sessions. So you know how it goes. I shake the phone on the mobile app. And so 13 top the leadership team of this company. And they're with me for 13 weeks, every week, 1 week. It's just 13 weeks. It's a specific deal for that leadership team. Worst year in their history when we started. Best year in their history when we finished 13 weeks later. 13 weeks. And I didn't teach anything. What happened was we actually listened to each other, learned who we were, heard about our pains and our dreams and our fears, and became close and fell in love with each other. And as a result of that, this team started collaborating in such a way that they'd never done before. They didn't know each other before. They talked to each other, but then their functions, right? I'm going to talk to the marketing department. I'm going to go and talk to the accounting department. I got some problem with my invoicing, so I'm going to talk to the controller. We don't talk about people. We don't say, I'm going to see Fred, who's running the finance department, because I know he's in the middle of a divorce and I want to give him some comfort. We don't say that. That doesn't happen. So we need to do that. That's what we need. We need to deal with human beings as they are, no matter where they are, just happen to be in a different place, which we call work.
Yeah. And we all bring that to the table, yes. We hide it, we don't discuss it, but I think we need to, and I think people like Gabor Mate, and I'm seeing a lot of, work on trauma and a lot of work on, healing the inner child and working on our patterns and letting go. And, I think we need to, I think that needs to come first at work as well, so that we can just be real with each other and go, okay, I have compassion, I have an understanding. Okay, I got it. You went through this as a kid. So now perhaps, you get triggered by certain things, Yeah. It seems the fear of what others think or will think, or the fear of being chastised by others is behind the inaction and the same old as far as how we do business, how we do religion and politics. So how then do we honor the human spirit and say enough? Like radical honesty, kindness, empathy are the new rule of thumb.
Well, those words are not about self, are they? They're all about serving. They're all about what we do for other people. And I have mixed feelings about this inner child thing and dealing with our traumas and so on, because I wonder if we are in a very narcissistic place with that. I just can't imagine Christ, for example, who had plenty of traumas, or Buddha, or Confucius, or Lao Tzu, or Nelson Mandela. I don't think he had to say, geez, I've got all these traumas that I have to heal before I can be president of South Africa. I don't think he said that. He said, I got to roll up my sleeves and get the job done. And so I think there's a questioning in me. I don't want to say that inner child work is wrong or bad or what. It's not. I'm sure it's very useful, but I don't think it should be overplayed, because I think, as I write at the very front of the book, I say, when your girlfriend dumps you, you have a choice now. You go home and get drunk and binge watch TV and eat Doritos until you're overweight, or do you just go over to your friend's house and paint their bedroom wall? Because if you do that, you'll get a gift from them. Their gift will be gratitude and love. That's what you need right now. But you can't get it by feeling sorry for yourself. You have to, and doing your inner work, as it were. You have to go to another place and inspire that person, and then they will inspire you. That's how it works. Yeah. So get out of yourself is the way I'm thinking of this. You know, now there are exceptions. You know, if you're a rape victim or a drug, you've been through a whole drug experience, or you've got beaten up somewhere emotionally or physically. I understand these histories. They're brutal, and we need to work with them, and that, I understand that. But that doesn't apply to all of us. I mean, you and I all have traumas inside us that we experience, but we're over it. We're through it now. I'm busy doing other things, and I'm going to spend time there.
Yeah, I agree. But I think my sense is, I think it's important to maybe just to be a little bit more open about it. But you're right. You're right. Don't marinate in it too long, because really it doesn't do you any justice.
Well, do the work, and then move on.
Exactly.
I know a lot of people who are still doing the work 20 years later.
Yeah.
Uncle, enough already.
Yeah.
How about other people? I mean, it's not all about you. How about some other people in the world?
Right. Yeah. Why am I forgetting his name? The book, Man's Search for Meaning. I mean,
oh yes, Viktor Frankl.
Yeah, in a Holocaust camp.
Yeah, sure.
Horrific. People were dying. And he.
I was raised in the war.
Yeah.
I lived in a war zone. And, bombs were dropping. Literally, the house next to me was destroyed completely. We had an air raid shelter at the bottom of the garden. These are my early years. All I know was fear and terror and bombs. And, I'm over it. It's done. I don't keep going back there. It's a long time ago. I'm healed.
Yeah.
I've done the work. I've really done the work. But I'm done. I'm not going to do the work again. I only do it once.
Yeah. I experienced not a breakup, but unrequited love. And I was a little sad about it. And then I called my friend at the time, an older gentleman, Bill Cleveland, who passed away late last year. This is last summer in June. I said, Bill, what are you doing today? Let's get together. There's a street festival in Pickering. And so I took him, I picked him up. He was in a seniors facility. And we had a great time, and he was so happy, and we were sitting. It was awesome. A sunny day. It was the first live concert we've both been to in 3 years with the pandemic and everything, and we just had a great time and a really nice connection, So
that's a great. You know what? You've come up with a great line there. So when you're unhappy, make someone else happy, and they'll make you happy.
Yeah. And it was great. It was a beautiful day. The music was good. Anyway, but the idea of radical honesty, kindness, empathy, it also borders on your castle principle. And you've been sharing that in your work for a number of years. So we do need courage and authenticity and truthfulness and love and effectiveness more than anything in how we do life, work, and business. Is that part of the messaging as well with reawakening the human spirit?
Yeah, and it's a very simple, but as you say, very widely used model now. I know people that have got it tattooed, and I've got the rocks in the garden that say castle, and it's everywhere now. But we've discovered this, as you know, by asking people what they did not like about people, and they said we do not like cowards. We don't like phony people. We don't like people who are selfish and self-serving. We don't like people who lie. We don't like people who rule with fear, and we don't like idiots. 6 things. So we said, well, then life isn't that difficult to figure out. Let's do the opposite. And the opposite is courage, authenticity, service, truthfulness, love, and effectiveness, as you say. And the reason this is so powerful, 2 reasons. 1, there's nothing to learn. It's in us already. We were always courageous. We always told the truth. We learned how to lie. We were always loving. We learned to be frightened. These are learned things. That behavior that people don't like is learned. But the natural behavior we're born with, we're born courageous. We're born authentic. We're born to serve. We're born telling the truth. Hey, there's no lying coming from a baby.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hungry now. Feed.
Yeah, cry, right?
Straight up. There's no filter. And love, well, of course the baby loves you. You can see that. And they're effective. That's effective.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, gets the job done.
Yeah.
So, there's nothing to learn here. And so where we are was in a situation where we have to remember what we've forgotten. But what we've learned as we've developed this model and seen it used all over the world is people love other people who are courageous.
Yes.
Who are authentic, who serve others, who tell the truth, who are loving and effective. We love those people. And what you want to be inspired is you want to be with people you love. And so the people you love are going to be living the castle principles.
Right.
And so if you live them, people will love you too.
Yeah. In a business context, the past several years, they've been teaching a lot about telling your story. And the story, version that I like is from Pixar Films, which is based on the hero's journey. And it's called the Pixar Story Spine. And it's really like, here I am. I was doing this, and then one day this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and now because of that, this happened, and now here I am. Right. So it's like now we like when people are authentic with their past and who they were, and now figured out a way to help you become, working with the castle principles and be your own hero. So I think there's been that shift in how we market and promote ourselves in business. And I really like that.
Yeah. By the way, segue, that George Lucas took the hero's journey.
Yes.
And actually made the film based on that.
Yes.
So the storyline completely follows the hero's journey of Joseph Campbell.
Yeah, exactly. Star Wars. We're almost out of time for our 26 minutes, so we're going to go to a deeper dive. But before I do, I want to ask one question. You just had a nice interview with Marianne Williamson, who's running for president again. What was her message? I'm kind of curious.
Well, she's got a manifesto. If you go to marianne24.com, you'll see her manifesto. She's got a whole line of thinking about what she's doing with housing, with immigration, with bank regulation, with the electoral college, and all kinds of stuff. So basically, she wants us to be more considerate of people and the earth. And so she doesn't understand why we're still financing fossil fuels at this time of our journey. When we've got a train coming down the track at us so fast that it's scary, and we keep throwing logs on the track. It's just ridiculous. We're going to be in trouble if we keep doing it. So she's in that journey of trying to, and of course she's trying to speak truth to power. She will be a thorn in the sides of all the candidates. There's no doubt, because she's sharper probably than all of them, mentally, much sharper. She knows her stuff. She's a terrific historian, and she will be potent. She may not win, but she'll make a noise, that's for sure.
I wonder if she'll bring in some of the Course in Miracles teachings into the mix.
Yes. Well, she's a very religious person, and she promotes religiousness, and particularly Christian, although A Course in Miracles is roughly sort of Christian, but it's really more generic than that. And it doesn't really adhere to a specific, doesn't talk about Christ, for example. It's really about a higher purpose in our lives and adhering. It's a phenomenal read. It's a dense read for sure, but very important. She's probably the world's expert on it.
Yeah, she is. Actually, she's Jewish background.
Yes, but she was born into a Jewish family. Which is sort of agnostic now, I would say. Yeah.
I find her, when I think of Marianne Williamson, I don't think of religion. I think of, this is a woman of spirit. Like this is.
Yes, indeed.
Spiritual.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So we're out of time on the 26-minute segment. So you're okay to go deeper with our.
Sure.
All right. So those watching, listening, stay with us. If you want more, a deeper dive version of 26 Minutes With will follow. And in the meantime, I thank you for listening to 26 Minutes With. It's a show about leadership, those who are making a positive impact and change for the better, and those with the courage to speak up and embrace those, castle principles that we talked about with Lance. So stay with us. We'll be back with our deeper dive next. Hang tight.